Hi, my name's Harry, and these are my Octagon thoughts. And here I'll be talking about Kamaru Usman and his future and what it holds. So for Kamaru Usman's the number one pound for pound fighter in the UFC right now, in my opinion. He's flown through this division with relative ease. There was times where he's been in trouble against Gilbert Burns and Colby Covington, but he's battle tested. He's gone through the adversity, and he's come out the other end the victor multiple times. And he's getting better. That's the scary thing. Kamaru Usman's getting better. This guy's wrestling is world class. His ground game is world class. His striking's okay. But now with Trevor Whitman, it's getting towards world class level. And once it gets there, this guy's unstoppable. The question comes to, in my opinion, is will Adesanya ever lose the 185 belt? Will Usman ever get the chance to go up to 185 and challenge for the belt if Adesanya isn't champion? Because we obviously know that the three African kings, Ngannou, Adesanya, and Usman, like they don't want to compete against each other, and Usman's not going to go challenge Israel Adesanya. They're good friends, and they want more African champions. They want more. They want more of that out there for the world to see. And so what's next for Kamaru Usman? And Dana's been pretty adamant that it will be the Colby Covington rematch, but then Kamaru's been pretty adamant it won't be the Colby Covington rematch. Kamaru Usman saying, "Oh, it won't be Leon Edwards either," because he got cracked against Nate Diaz in the fifth round and looked pretty awful in that fifth round and almost got finished by Nate Diaz. I mean, Usman's out here on Twitter calling out Nate Diaz, which we're obviously not going to see. At least I hope so for Nate Diaz's sake. So what is the next move for Kamaru Usman? I think it will be Colby Covington because usually the UFC gets what they want, and I think it makes sense for Kamaru Usman too. The first fight, I had Colby up 3 rounds to 1 going into that fifth round. But the thing is, Kamaru Usman's striking has got so much better since. So much. Like leaps and bounds better since with Trevor Whitman. And I think that'll be the difference in the fight. The only thing that's kind of concerning for Usman is that we've seen him get hurt against Gilbert Burns. We saw him get hurt in that fight. He got cracked hard in the first round and went down for a second, but he recovered and he came out victorious in round number 2 with a finish over Gilbert Burns. So in this rematch, does Colby Covington have a legitimate chance at beating Kamaru Usman? If his chin holds up, Colby will be there for the whole fight. Last fight, he had his jaw broken, which obviously played a factor for his breathing because he had to keep his mouth open to breathe more, which made it worse on his chin, and he ended up getting finished in the fifth round. And even if he survived, it would have been a draw for me. But he would, when you look at the scorecards, Usman would have won a majority decision. So when I look at the rematch, does it really excite me? Yeah, because it's Colby Covington and he's gonna talk a lot of shit, and Kamaru Usman's gonna talk a lot of shit, and it'll be a fun build up. And those guys are awesome. I mean, I'm not gonna watch the pound for pound best fighter in the world compete, but what really excites me for Kamaru Usman at this stage, the Leon Edwards fight doesn't really excite me at all. I think Kamaru Usman's the better wrestler. I think he's the better grappler. I think the question was when we saw the rematch, oh, well, the striking, can Leon Edwards outstrike Kamaru Usman? And the thing is, after seeing that Nate Diaz fight, I don't think he can. I don't think he can. I think Kamaru Usman's 100 times more powerful than Nate Diaz is on the feet, and Nate had Leon rocked. I think Usman probably flies through Leon Edwards in the rematch, sadly, and I love Leon. So what's really out there for Kamaru Usman at this point? And this is the fight that excites me. This is the one fight that excites me at 170 pounds right now. We won't see it right away, but I do think we'll see it in the future. At UFC 264, the co-main event, we have Gilbert Burns versus Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. And the one opponent that kind of makes me very excited for a Kamaru Usman matchup is Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. You may ask yourself why, and I'd say that Stephen Wonderboy Thompson's takedown defense, he's just like such a unique fighter. His takedown defense is world class. This guy does not get taken down, and if he does, he gets back up. And his striking, like this guy's one of the best strikers in the UFC history. I mean, his striking is ridiculous. We saw what he did. He made Jeff Neal look like a little boy. He made Vicente Luque look like a little boy out there when he fought those. He got caught against Anthony Pettis. Props to Pettis. He caught him with the super, but he was getting dominated up to that point. Wonderboy's a world-class striker, and could Usman defeat him over 5 rounds? Could he get him to the ground? Could he get him in the clinch and hold him there? I think it'd be a competitive fight. I'd definitely pick Usman if you're gonna be like, who's gonna win? I'll pick Usman. But who has the best chance at dethroning Kamaru Usman right now at 170 pounds? In the top 10, I would say it's Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. That's a fight that excites me. Like, I'm generally excited to see how that plays out. I think Wonderboy Thompson will probably win a decision over Gilbert Burns, but Gilbert's got power and he's got a good ground game, so it wouldn't shock me if Gilbert could grind out a decision. I think that fight will be extremely competitive. But if Wonderboy comes through victorious in that fight, that's the next matchup for Usman. The thing is, will Usman get booked before that fight happens? That's the question. And UFC 265 in August it has Nunes versus Pena right now, but it's not a very loaded card, so it's very possible they look for another title fight there. And Usman's very active, so I think it is possible we get Covington versus Usman 2 in August at UFC 265, especially with Ngannou and Lewis not likely for that card at this point, reported by Ariel Helwani. So the thing it comes down to, if Usman waits till the end of that fight, I think it's very possible that we could see Wonderboy Thompson versus Kamaru Usman for the title in the fall if he comes out unscathed against that fight against Gilbert Burns. But it'll depend on how that fight goes. And for Leon Edwards, I think it makes sense for him versus Masvidal. Now's the time. I think Masvidal's got to be licking his chops a little bit, seeing how Nate Diaz hurt him. I think that'd be a fun 5-round fight. I'd even try and put that on the same card as Usman versus Covington, just so we could have those 4 at a press conference together and see what happens. That'd be a ton of fun. And then, yeah, so I think that's what's next for Usman. And after that, if he was to beat Wonderboy, if he's beat Covington in a rematch, if he's to beat Edwards in a rematch, what's next for him? There's only one guy out there that you're like, ooh, that guy could cause some problems if he's real deal. That guy's name is Khamzat Chimaev. And Khamzat Chimaev out here, Ariel Helwani reporting that he turned down Luke Rockhold at 185, which I think makes sense to turn down if you're trying to make a serious run at 170 pounds. I think he'll be a threat at both divisions if he's real deal, which he looks like he is. So who do we see Khamzat Chimaev? How soon do we see Khamzat Chimaev fight at 170 pounds? Who's he against? Is it Neil Magny? Is it a Michael? No, not Michael Chiesa, because he's fighting Vicente Luque, which is going to be a banger. So who's Khamzat Chimaev fighting next? How quick can he grow up the ladder? We know the UFC loves him and want to push him immediately as they have. So I'm curious to see how that plays out. But after that, like, there's not a ton of 170 contenders here that I'm dying to see versus Kamaru Usman. I mean, I love Chiesa and I love Luque, but both of those guys would get dummied by Usman at this point. They both get dummied at this point. The only chance at someone beating Usman right now is just catching him. Like GSP got caught against Matt Serra. We've obviously seen him get hurt against Gilbert when Gilbert hit him with a brick against his head, but he survived. I mean, so who's going to break through and beat Kamaru Usman? Who's going to do it? And I'm not sure who that is right now, but the most competitive fighter against Usman right now, in my opinion, would be Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. And that's a fight that I'd love to see. I'm here for the rematch, though, of Covington. I think it'll be entertaining, but I do not see a path to victory for Covington at this point with the improvements Usman's made. All right, thank you. Subscribe down below.